Hello and welcome to another episode of Unstuck with Hypnopunk. I'm Hypnopunk, Transformation with Edge, and today's episode is about male personality types: alpha, beta, delta, gamma, and sigma. So we're going to find out what personality you are today. It's going to be an insightful episode that you may get some understandings of why you do the things that you do. So deep underlying roots with your personality traits. But before we get into that, I'd just like to thank all of you that have left your 5-star reviews on iTunes or wherever you choose to listen to this, on Spotify or on Google Play or YouTube. Thank you for doing that. It's what inspires me to keep putting out more content for you, so please keep doing it. It's the only way that I know that you like this, and the only way I'll continue if you keep doing that. And also, to sweeten the deal, whenever you leave a 5-star review, take a snapshot of it and email me at mail, M-A-I-L, at LUKENOSIS, LUKENOSIS.com, mail at LUKENOSIS.com. And you get a free discovery session with me, which is basically a Skype session or over some kind of phone, picture, video messaging. We get 30 minutes of my time to help to coach you to the next level in something in your life. Disclaimer: this is not a therapy session, it is not a hypnosis session, it is not a counseling session. You don't get to hemorrhage all your problem all over me. It's not about problems, it's about solutions. It's about positive things that you want more in your life, and my ability to help you to unstick yourself to take the next step. That being said, let's get on to the show at hand. Male personality traits. Well, what are they and why are they important to you? Well, understanding what your personality trait is, and understand this is just a model. That's all it is. It's just a model, but a way of potentially understanding you and some of your motivations and your reasons for doing things. And you're going to hear some of the positive things about each trait and some of the things that are not so positive about each trait. Most people in popular society today are familiar with the two main traits. Well, I won't say main, but two main traits. I said it again, didn't I? They're familiar with two traits, which happen to be alpha, the alpha male, and beta, the beta male. But there are there are 4 other traits that we're going to go into depth today and discuss and see which one you think you are, which one you perhaps identify with a little bit more. Now, the alpha male personality is the most desirable to most men most of the time. And the alpha male is generally a good-looking guy, the leader of a pack, a guy who pretty much gets most women he goes after, is naturally a born leader, has no problems with confidence, perhaps a jock on the school football team, tends to feel quite good about himself. He's not necessarily intellectually driven or emotionally driven. It's mostly physically driven in what they do. They want to continue to feel good. They're usually looked upon in society. Think of a lot of professional athletes, a lot of professional actors and people in that field. A man who is an alpha male is loved in social gatherings, generally the star that he's around. Intimidates quite a lot of people. He likes his freedom. He doesn't want to sacrifice that. When he sees a woman he likes, he doesn't tend to hesitate before he approaches. Generally having some kind of cute pick-up lines to say to a woman, enabling a woman to fall hard for him. And as I said, it's typically the personality trait that most women will be attracted to, and most men will typically want to be. Now, the opposite of that, you've probably heard of, is the beta male. Now, the beta male are the opposite, as I said, of the alpha male. Beta guys are typically the nice guys who you meet every day, and potentially maybe you'll end up marrying one. They're the kind of guys you want to have kids with, the kind of guys that when you meet them you just, oh, this is a nice guy, this is a nice person. Perhaps they even be friend zoned a lot of the time. They're generally reserved, quite sensitive and responsible, quite moderate. They don't particularly stand out. Nothing quite special about them when you see them. They'll generally be quite introverted. They'll typically be the kind of guys at schools that will be bullied a lot of the time. Gets embarrassed easily. Usually working for someone else, needs to be told what to do. In a romantic relationship, generally the beta male will not take the driving seat. Is always faithful, but seen as being quite boring and quite beige by most people out there. But whereas the alpha male is far more adventurous and far more exciting to be with, the beta male is seen as being someone stable to have perhaps potentially a relationship with, but at the same point quite boring. Now we've got the ones that you probably haven't heard so much about. We've got the gamma male. Now the gamma male is mostly an introverted guy trying to get his voice heard. He's intelligent but not close to an alpha or a beta male. In fact, he's somewhere in between. He tries so hard to achieve his goals, but doesn't want to go the extra mile to finish something, even if he knows by doing it will gain him the respect that he deserves so much. Generally, they're quite sneaky, quite snarky. Think of typical people that when you think about in offices, spreading a lot of office gossip, a lot of negativity. They may be saying a lot of nice things, but under the surface, there's kind of a snarkiness there, snideness there that you don't trust, that you feel a bit dirty, that you don't particularly like. They typically want to be famous, want to be successful, but don't really want to put in the extra effort, don't really want to put in the extra work. They'll be quite manipulative, but not intelligent enough to pull it off. They'll just nod their head in meetings when their bosses are talking. In a relationship, they can be quite difficult to be with because they can get quite obsessed with a girl that they're with, if indeed they are straight, and they can transform quite easily into a stalker if the girl doesn't want to be with them or tries to avoid them. Generally, they lack self-esteem. They think they're a lot smarter than they actually are. But deep down, in the dark recesses of the mind, they realise that they are not enough and they won't be enough. At least that's what they think. They can be quite clingy, quite toxic. When they fall in love hard and build their whole life around the world. They're quite blind to seeing people, specifically women, taking advantage of them, and they're easily lied to and deceived by beautiful women. They're very sensitive, but often will have a facade of snarkiness and weak humour to try and get around this. Gamma male personality right there. Many offices all around the world filled with the gamma male. Now there's the omega personality. An omega male is a healthy combination of all the good things that the alphas and betas have. Just like the alpha male, he is the leader in relationships, being the dominant one at all times. When he's in love, he sets some strong boundaries and never crosses them. He's not the type of guy that women can twist around their little fingers, but gives them all that they need for a happy, healthy relationship. His main priority is to make his woman feel safe and comfortable, but he also needs for her to give him those things too. He's the kind of guy every omega female would settle for, because in the end, you attract what you are. In his business, he doesn't want to be a team player, doesn't particularly work too well with others, so chooses to do things alone. Once he gets great results, he's proud of himself and he shows happiness to people around him, showing them that indeed he is clever enough to seal the deal. Sometimes he doesn't know what he stands for, and when things don't happen like he imagined, he thinks it may be the fault of other people. In business, he thinks that he is the smartest one, saying that the whole system would fall apart without him. In romantic relationships, he's difficult to catch and more difficult to handle. He's a twisted idea of love, and he only wants his desires and needs to be satisfied. He is not a good giver, and when he gives something, he immediately wants something better as a reward. He is hard to please, so most women don't like to go on dates with him. He often ends up alone just because he isn't willing to listen to his partner. The delta personality. A delta male is a normal guy who just tries to be as successful as he can be, trying to find someone that understands him. He doesn't have the same amount of self-esteem as the as the alpha male, sigma coming later, but he's not far from it. In social gatherings, he's not afraid to say what he thinks, regardless of whether women are present or not. He likes to be admired, so he gets really proud of himself when someone says that he's good at entertaining. A man like this likes nice things, likes nice women and expensive cars. He knows his worth and he always has goals that he wants to achieve so he can be at peace for the rest of his life. He can't attract the most attractive women, so he has to settle for the second or third options. He's optimistic about women, but finds them mysterious, and sometimes he can be afraid of them. In business, he tries to be the best version of himself and doesn't mind going the extra mile to finish the job to be promoted or to get a higher position. The most important thing about him is he often works hard just so he can forget his private problems. He tries to suffocate his feelings when they are not positive, and that makes him an emotionally unavailable man. But with the right woman, he can transform into a dreamy guy and give her everything that she needs to be happy. He will always put the love of his life first if he knows that it will pay off on the long term. And now we're left with the Sigma male personality. The Sigma male is pretty much like the wolf. He is a male outside of the male hierarchy, who succeeds despite rejection of the hierarchy itself. He is a lone wolf who doesn't want to reveal anything about himself, so that makes him mysterious. Sigma often quiet but never shy or intimidated. They are very assertive and will speak and make themselves heard when they need to. A man like this is confident, self-assured, comfortable in his own skin. He's very good at both physical and intellectual jobs. He doesn't have any problems learning new things and new ways of going. He is completely independent, like a real wolf who doesn't pay attention to what the sheep have to say. The most important thing about them is they're not born, they're made. They're shaped by years and years and years of adversity and physical and mental and emotional trial. He can often be even more powerful than the alpha or the omega in social situations due to his ability to persuade and manipulate people. He is neither a follower nor a leader, but rather a wild card. In romantic relationships, a man like this seeks perfection, so will not be with someone he doesn't really like just to not end up alone. For him, it's better to be alone than in a bad company or a bad relationship, so he'll remain like that until he finds a woman who will rock his world. The most important thing is that he'll always take risks to achieve good things rather than to settle for less than he truly deserves. So there's some personality traits that I've just shared with you right there. 6 personality traits. We've got the alpha, we've got the beta, the opposites of one another. The gamma and the omega, the opposites of one another. The delta and the sigma, complete opposites of one another. Which one do you find that you most identify with? You might identify with more than one, but you'll probably find that there's one that you identify with a little bit more. What are the strengths? What are the strengths of that personality type? What are the weaknesses? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What could you learn from potentially some of the other personality traits to make yourself a better man, a stronger man out there? What could the alpha take from the beta? What can the delta take from the sigma? What can the gamma take from the omega, and vice versa, to make themselves a more well-formed person, more well-formed man in relationships, in business, in health? Think about it. Perhaps go back and listen to the podcast again and notice some of those points. Maybe get a deeper understanding of you and some of your deep structures for doing things that you had no realization as to why you did them before. And as always, I have been Luke Michael Howard, aka the Hypnopunk. If you enjoyed today's podcast, if you'd like a fact sheet on those 6 personality traits, do shoot me an email at mail, M-A-I-L, at LUKENOSIS, LUKENOSIS.com, and I'll send you the fact sheet on those 6 male personality traits. Coming up next week will be the opposite of that, will be those personality traits, but for women. So stay tuned and always believe.